Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, James and I celebrate being mid-level. Hope you enjoy.
All right. Hey, Pat,
Hey, James.
I just realized that I have reached mid-leveldom.
Yes.
And while we have talked a lot about some of the struggles, some of the challenges, and that we want to, climb up that ladder, sort of break out of mid-leveldom and get to, whatever the next level is. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
There's also a lot to celebrate.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we need to say good job,
Yeah.
pat on the back,
Yeah.
you know. For all of us, we have created something out of nothing, or we're in the process of creating something out of nothing.
Mhm.
And that's hard, hard work.
Yeah.
Good job to us.
Well, I agree. I actually think one of the things I realized is that what you see when you first start any field, any creative field, is you see the outliers. They're the ones on TV and in movies. They're the top of the bestseller list. They're the Stephen Kings, if you will,
Hmm.
the Martha Grahams. So that's presented as sort of the norm, in a way, because that's what you see. You don't really understand initially when you get into any creative field that not everybody is that person,
Hmm.
and that's okay. The truth is, that I think it's a spectrum, and because you're influencing people in a much smaller circle, let's say,
Hmm.
like people that know that a normal person can write a book, normal, or of course, you have to really want to do it and you have to learn how, but it's not like they only see that kind of thing on
Yeah.
TV or whatever. So we're doing kind of we're not completely invisible, but we're not on the media. Um,
Right.
And I think one thing I really love, I don't even know if I want to get up the ladder. I'm loving mid-level. Mid-level's
Yeah.
my
Oh,
speed.
you're really embracing and leaning into it.
I'm embracing it. I'm hugging the ladder so hard. If somebody tried to force me up it, forget it. Forget it. It would
Now,
go. No, I'm fine. I'm actually fine going up the ladder. I think it's normal. But the thing I really believe is that by the time you're, what you could, if you want to call yourself a mid-level creative, you have to be pretty comfortable with whatever you're creating, like you have to have done it for a while. You have to know that if you're a writer, you can write a good sentence. You don't have to make 1,000 tries at it. You can write a pretty decent sentence most of the time. Uh,
mhm.
there's always areas that you could be better at for sure. I think half the time with any artistic or creative career, it's like you're peeling away everything that isn't you as you progress. And so you're getting actually really good at just expressing yourself or whatever it is you're
Mhm.
making, or creating. And so I think being mid-level is kind of great because it doesn't matter how old you are. You've understood that there is a long apprenticeship period for most arts that I can think of. Even for stuff like skateboarding, that you got to be obsessive for a little while before you get good at it. Remember
Mhm.
our guest Doug
Yes.
Harrison of Finn? And he said objectively there was no reason for him to be so passionate about making music. Um,
Yeah.
because he just wasn't, he wasn't that great at it at the beginning, but he was passionate about it. And so now he's incredible at it. And I think that's true from my experience too. I mean, I remember typing up a story. I always liked typewriters. So I had a typewriter in my apartment. I didn't have a TV. I lived alone at that point and I was typing up a story and I was like, I have no idea where to end this sentence. I
Mhm.
just kept typing. It was like the longest sentence in the world because I was like, I could just add more words. I didn't make a
Uh,
period for like a whole page. And it wasn't because I was trying something new, it's because I honestly had no fucking idea what I was doing. I realized the kind of morass I'd gotten myself into with this damn hobby. But then years went by and I'm pretty comfortable writing a sentence now, and I think that's a great place to be. Anyway, that's my thinking. What about you?
yeah, I mean, you know, so I often think of like a hiking metaphor
Mm,
because I do a lot of hiking. And
yeah.
so when you're getting, you're going and you're starting to get tired and it's hard work and it's steep. and you are constantly looking forward, all you see is what's left to do.
Yeah.
And it's really important to take a moment to turn around and look at how far you've come,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that gives you that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Because when I
Yeah.
started this, I graduated from college, but I was a night snowmaker. I was working for the Forest Service and I was working in restaurants,
Hmm.
here I am. And so
Yeah.
it's like, that's cool. I shouldn't feel bad about myself and I shouldn't feel like, oh, I haven't achieved or anything like that.
You've written 35 books, have you not?
Yeah, maybe not written 35, but it's up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
30 or 35. But, here's a question.
Mm.
So have you ever, or do you still feel like you need some validation as a creative?
No, I would say not. You mean validation as somebody telling me it's okay for me to write, or what do you mean?
Yeah, external validation of you as a creative.
Well, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I mean, if the Booker Prize committee called me tomorrow, of course that, there's this awkward part of having to write the book, but let's say there's no basis in reality of my external validation. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. I consider money to be external validation, actually.
Yeah.
But the do I need it in order to keep doing what I like doing? No, 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 I don't think so. It's more, in fact, the less external validation I have, the more interested I get in what I'm doing, weirdly. How about
Really?
you?
How come?
Because I'm not taking up time reading nice emails.
You're actually doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, me, I'd love to say no. I'd love to be like you on that, but sometimes, yeah, and I'm not entirely sure why, if it's a lack of sort of self-confidence in, what I've done and where I'm at, or if it's feeling like, oh, if I'm getting more validation, I can then turn that around and use it to promote
Mm,
myself and grow my work or publish more or something like that. I'm not
yeah.
sure,
Well, that's it,
but
right?
it's
I mean, because it's not just validation, it's always got some other aspect to it.
right, right. But it's
Yeah.
certainly not what it used to be,
Yeah.
right? So when I first started, and it was an intentional trying to transition from those other jobs to, writing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I felt very severely that I lacked experience, expertise, all of that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
I was just starting, and it didn't register to me as normal
Hmm.
that everybody has to start somewhere. No matter who you are, you have to start somewhere and you start knowing nothing and you
Yeah.
build. When I first started, there were people who said, "No, you're not going to be good at this. Don't do it." Or the other one was, certain people are very credential oriented, or like you don't have the right education, meaning, you didn't go to a good enough school, or
Yeah.
you're not the kind of person who succeeds at this,
Hmm.
right? A writer looks like this.
Huh. How dare
And
they?
I think getting to this mid-level place, there's a bit of a recognition that, hey, this is what a writer looks like.
Huh? No.
It's not just the Stephen Kings or the big name people. There's lots of people who are doing what I do.
Well, mid-levels make the world go round, the world go round, the world. Like when you think about it, because the people you see in general on in media are the outliers, right? They're the mega
Yeah.
successful. It's easy not to know that there's a whole world of people making a living successfully that aren't known to anybody else, maybe in their field or depending on how they work. Like they might be locally quite well known as a
Mhm.
poet or whatever, but not that's still creating. Like that's still the life
Mhm.
that you would have given your left leg for 20 years ago. So there's nothing to bemoan. I think it's still an awesome way to live. And mid-level
Mhm.
is kind of, I guess all creative fields are fairly insecure, but mid-level is the kind of insecurity you can live with. It's not where you're just constantly reconsidering whether you should get a jobby job. It's more like
Right.
once every 3 years you think about whether you should get a jobby job.
Yeah. Yeah. When shit turns, goes south or sideways, or however you want to phrase it, or somebody says something shitty to you, which still
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
You think, ah, God. why am I doing this? But then you come back and
Yeah.
we're running low on time, but I gotta ask, have you changed how you define success when you think about when you first started as compared to now?
I don't know if I've ever defined success, you know. I've just always thought in terms of projects.
Hmm.
So to me, success is finishing the project. And
Hmm.
whatever skill level I have at the time to get the project finished, I took getting the project out off the table while I learned how to write a novel. So I wrote 5 novels without ever sending any one of them out. And I don't know
Hmm.
if that was just me being weird or if it was that I really felt like they weren't publishable. Probably a little bit of both, but because, being weird is part of it. But yeah, I feel like, do I even now have a definition of success? Success is basically making my living doing stuff I really like doing.
Yeah.
And
See,
yes,
that's awesome. That's
mhm,
really good.
yeah,
Yeah. It's Zen, right? It's planting the flower for the joy of planting the flower, right?
I guess, yeah, yeah. How about you?
Um, yeah, I think it's evolved. I definitely had a definition of success that was also oriented towards the goal that I wanted to achieve. So if I were to go by that definition, I would say no, I haven't succeeded. But if I were to go by a definition where I'm earning my living, doing creative work that I care about, that has an impact on the world,
Hmm.
even if it's small, yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that feels pretty good. There's things that I still want to do, and there's things that I still want to achieve, and there's goals that I've set. Um, so I think there's a little bit of redefinition based on sort of recognizing, okay, I've achieved this mid-leveldom.
Mm,
So now I want to look forward and what do I want to do? What do I want to do with this? Where do I want to take it?
yeah. Set new goals.
So I maybe partially define success based on, those goals, but at the same time, getting back to the hiking metaphor, that's also very much about looking at the mountain that remains and
Mhm.
not also taking the time to appreciate, how far we've been able to climb.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And I would just want to add one thing is that I think what I feel more successful about is the closer the finished object or whatever I'm making, writing usually is to the idea I had, the concept that birthed it, the more successful it is. And if I'm, fully engaged all the time, then that's successful. And also,
Mm.
yeah, I love to, have monetary success, but I'm also a little bit suspicious of that because it can bring with it other, I mean, not of money. I love money, but like winning, having a really successful book can bring with it other pressures. That sure, I think I'm old enough to handle, but when I was 30, I don't think I could have handled that. Just and publishing was different back then too, but I think it's been good for me to take a while to get to mid-level because
Mm.
I'm just that type of person who needs time to adjust.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I will never say it would have been terrible to succeed early and often.
What a shit show that would have been. How awful.
But
Yeah,
at the
no,
same
it would have been
time,
great.
it would have been great, right? But it also would have really challenged me in a lot of ways
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have been prepared to be able to handle.
Do you think
So,
we're rationalizing right now? Do you think this is actually us
well,
just,
that's what I want to avoid
yeah,
is,
yeah. I think the more I talk about it, the less I believe myself. Isn't that weird?
no, we discuss these things in this format to come to new realizations. So
I'm
yeah.
I'm 10 times more confused. I'm not celebrating mid-levels at all now.
I'm celebrating the accomplishment of reaching mid-level while acknowledging there's still more mountain to go. But
Yeah, even
um,
talking about it now makes me feel very anxious. Okay.
all right. So now that we're feeling more anxious and we're when we
That went
started,
sideways. Yeah.
we're gonna get back to delusional thinking.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to hear about your experience with mid-leveldom. Do you like it? Hate it? Are you there? Are you past it? If yes, please contact us about being a guest. If you found us on a streaming service, we'd love to have you as a subscriber, so hop on over to giftedunderachievers.substack.com and leave us a note in the comments. Until next time, have a great day.